guys, how are you doing? I hope you're having a good day so far. It is morning here. I just woke up and had a big cupboard door fall off the hinge and almost smashed me in the head. Glasses everywhere. And let's face it, any day where you avoid death by cupboard has got to be a good day. So, okay, so I apologise for the slightly clickbaity title of this video. So I've made $140,000 on KDP since I started, and I'll link somewhere on the screen now to how much that is when I actually get around to posting this video. And I have had many people ask me, what's your secret on KDP? How do you make more than lots of other people that have thousands of books and you only have, 500, which may seem like a lot to some people, but it's not a lot to others. How do you do it? So I want to talk about the beginning when I started on KDP and what led to my initial success. So after doing a load of notebooks and leading to a few sales here and there, I decided to go for slightly higher content books. You wouldn't even call them medium content, but you might, for some of them, they might be classed as medium content, but others, they were still kind of journals and things, maybe with some prompts and some variation throughout the book, so it just wasn't the same page over and over again. But things like additional prompts or different design templates on different pages and things like that, that's what I started to try and do. And I did just stumble across a niche with very low competition. The design of their books was something I felt like I could definitely compete with. The sales weren't amazing. I think the BSR was somewhere between 100k and 300k per book. My presumption at the time was that the niche would be able to get more sales, and I didn't really do much more research than that. I looked at what keywords they were using in their title and subtitle and looked those up, saw what would come up. And then I looked at other additional keywords that I could add. It's hard for me to remember, but I don't think I had a keyword till that point. I think I had the AMZ suggestion expander, and I did use some keywords that it was suggesting in there. I think that was it. And later then I got Publisher Rocket, and I went into Publisher Rocket and actually looked up all the keywords that I'd been putting in. And for the most part, they didn't have very much search volume at all. I think some of them were, maybe it was under 100 searches a month. However, I think that in reality, there were more searches than that. So I always take the results on these things with a pinch of salt anyway. But it's not just that keyword that you rank for. Obviously, you rank for lots of keywords. And so eventually, the search volume adds up. So my point is that even if you have a few keywords where the search volume isn't great, if you're ranking on the first page for those, you're still going to get a decent amount of people that are going to see your book. So I decided I would create several books in the niche. I did one first and I started getting sales almost immediately, and I quite quickly after that added some extra ones to that niche as well. I think it was within days of me posting the book, it started getting sales, and obviously it had no reviews at this point. I think part of the reason it took off so quickly is because it was in Q4 when I published it. So it was my third month in December, and that book made over $500, I think, which was about half of all of my royalties for that month. So at this point, if you were to go into this niche, there are a lot of people. I have had a situation where that actual book has been completely copied, so the interior has literally been lifted and put into another book, and also the cover. But most of the time, people just try and copy it as closely as they can without ripping it off completely. If you're going to go into a niche, try and create something that isn't already there, something that is unique, something that is missing. I have tried to do that even when I've gone into the same niche, competing against myself. I'm not just going to try and do the same book. It's not worth your time when a book has hundreds of thousands of reviews to just copy it. You won't get to that level because the original book will be ranking for so many other keywords that its visibility will be far, far greater than your book, and your book won't reach that visibility. So if you're going to target a niche where you think there's an opportunity, really just try and put a unique spin on what is already there, and think about audience that might be underserved in that niche. And also just be aware that a narrow niche at first can become more and to target a variety of keywords, not just low competition, also high competition, also medium competition, and to target them all. So luck and timing were definitely involved in the initial phase of when I started to make sales on KDP. I mean, I think it was about a year after I started that more books started to come into this niche. I had a lot of time before people started to notice that I was making sales in this area. There weren't that many people that kind of jumped on the bandwagon for quite a long time. So I started in 2019, and I would say in 2020 at some point there started to be some more books in that area, and it was a bit of luck as well that I came across the niche in the first place. I did have some additional luck later on as well, because about a year after starting KDP I came across another niche, and I felt that it was underserved at the time. What I mean by that is there were designs out there, they were trying to appeal to someone, but it just didn't feel like that authentic. I felt that I could create some designs that would appeal to the audience more. And basically, I get an idea of that from the main keywords, just looking on Amazon and seeing what is there on the front page. And, are people making sales in that area? They don't have to be making a huge amount. It might be that the BSR is 300k or 500k, or even a bit higher if I feel that I can improve on what's already there. Because if some sales are being made, it might not be that there aren't people looking. It might just be that the book is not appealing enough for people to buy it. So what I decided to do is I created 3 books in this new niche that I found, and they all had similar interiors, but they were all still unique. So there'll be some elements that are slightly different, and they all had unique covers. The covers were of a similar style. They weren't completely distinct. So 1 out of these 3 books started to sell. But so many times I've made several in a niche, and you'll get one. You always get one that starts taking off for whatever reason. And you can learn a lot from that. I've taken elements of the style of the cover and I've maybe done something in a different niche, or also the colour of the cover. So another thing that I did is I decided to experiment with a new author name. And the author name I decided wouldn't be based on just one niche, but it would be based on a style. So I tested out one book with this style and it started to sell well. So I decided to test this out with other niches as well. And so all the covers had a similarity in design, but they were part of a brand. And the books within it were not all in the same niche, they were actually in different niches. I just wanted to test out whether a particular style of cover could work across a variety of different niches. And it turns out that they did. So this other author name is now one of my top selling author names. So this taught me a couple of things. The first is that experimenting and trying new things can lead to really good results. Also, that when you get a best-selling book in a niche, you can use elements from that idea to create books that sell in other niches as well. It might be the style of the actual cover or the interior layout of the book as well, which could be used as a template to fit in other niches and still become something completely unique. So there are a few things that I think have led to my own success on KDP, and some of those you can control and some of them you cannot. So the first being timing. Obviously, you've got absolutely no control over that. But, the best time you can start is yesterday. You're not going to be able to zoom back into 2018 or 2019 and start, but the best that you can do is start now, start today. So the other thing is luck, but you can make your own luck, and partly that's from just taking action. If you don't create anything, you're never going to run into that situation where you've got lucky in a certain area, or you've spotted a gap in the market and you've taken advantage of it. You're never going to be able to do that unless you're actually actively looking for opportunities on Amazon and trying to take them. That never would have happened to me unless I was doing the same thing. So the other things you do have control over. One is experimentation. You can do that just by being creative and trying new things without being too worried about what the outcome is going to be. If you enjoy creating books, then this is going to come easily to you anyway. The more you actually start creating things, the more ideas come to you. I've just started creating again, and it's amazing how that kind of comes back to life. So I started having lots of ideas again, and I think it's through actually doing something that you do start getting sparks of inspiration here and there. And when you stop, that can really just dry up. Another thing you can control is trying to find a gap in the market. You might think that as things become more and more saturated, there aren't gaps to be filled. To a point that is true, but actually you get so many people just copying someone else that they do tend to miss out on these opportunities. There are so many different ways that you can do a twist on something that's already out there. And the last thing is probably trying to reach audiences that are underserved. So you'll see a niche that's doing incredibly well, but maybe there are other audiences out there who are looking in this niche and just not seeing anything that appeals to them. Another thing that's worked for me is to use comedy. So sometimes you might be looking at a niche and everything is very vanilla, everything is quite bland, and maybe that you could switch it up and put some comedy somehow in there. So sarcasm is another thing that has worked for me. They can sell really, really well. So having really thought about it, those are the key things I think that stick out to me that have helped me to generate sales on KDP. And maybe some of those things are things you can't control, such as timing, but you can even, to an extent, control your own luck by simply trying things out. So you want to go into a niche where there is an audience that people are actually looking, but you don't want to go into one where your book is just going to be like a needle in a haystack. I've definitely had the most success with books in niches that are quite closely related to our highly competitive ones. So I'll have a keyword that's lower competition in the title, but I might have some higher competition keywords in the subtitle. So what that means is that I'll rank initially for that lower competitive term, and then later on, as the book gains momentum and sales and reviews, there's a bit of a snowball effect there, and then Amazon will pick up on all these other keywords that you have. And if you're lucky and your book is selling very well and you're getting those reviews, you'll start to rank for these much higher competitive terms. Your book takes on a life of its own eventually within the Amazon algorithm. One of my top selling books right now was created in just 2001. Sorry, 2001.
Affirmative, Dave. I read you.
One of my top books was created in 2021 in August, I think, September time. And it's now got 50 plus reviews, and it is one of my top selling books. I created the book on purpose to compete with some other ones in the same niche because I was trying to build out a different pen name. And try as I might, I've never, ever been able to take over the original books that I did in 2019. And that is just because these books have hundreds of reviews. The main one has 500 plus at the moment. If you are going to go into a niche, don't just look at the top selling book and think, right, I've got to do something like that in that style, with that font, with those colours or whatever. You might never outrank that original book, but you can still definitely make sales, especially if you're trying to provide something different in a style that's underserved in that area, or to a certain person in that group. For example, sometimes I've gone into a niche in a certain age range, or for women, and then I've done something for kids or teens. Anyway, my point is that with this new book, it has proven that you can still go into a niche and make money. You don't have to outrank the top book. I'm making hundreds of dollars with that book, but over 1,000 at least with the other one. So I think that's all for today. I really do hope you've taken something from this video. If you did enjoy it, please do give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. You can also hit the notification bell and you'll get notified whenever I upload a new video. So if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to ask. Leave a comment below and have a brilliant day. I will speak to you again very soon.